thank you for joining us. This is a Microsoft Build 2023 expert discussion hosted by Adobe. If you have come to this session looking to talk to us about document automation for the modern workforce, you are in the right place. Thank you again. My name is Ian Peacock. I'm a Group Product Marketing Manager here at Adobe Document Cloud, and I will go ahead and introduce the rest of our panel today. But first, I need to address some housekeeping. First of all, this session is live, but it is being recorded and will be available for on-demand viewing on the Microsoft Build website. So, by implication, by being part of this session, you're providing your consent to be part of this recording, and you can see the rest of the articulation of this on the screen. So if you are not comfortable being part of a recorded session, please do feel free to join, and you can catch up and watch it on demand later. Now, with that, let me introduce the rest of the team. I am joined by my colleague, Elishia Dvorak, in Product Marketing for Adobe Document Cloud. Hi, Elishia.
Hi, Ian. Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. Welcome, and I hope you enjoy the session.
Thank you. And Chad Keesling, who's a Technical Product Marketing Manager.
Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Mahrya Dakubu, our Field Go-to-Market and Strategy Lead.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here.
And last but not least, Andy Lauta, who leads Product Management for Adobe Acrobat Services.
Hey, everybody.
All right, so that's our panel. Now, again, before we get started, a little more housekeeping. This is a live and interactive session. We are here to have a discussion, to answer your questions. So please use the chat to submit your questions, and we will do our best to get through as many of them as we can and as much depth as we can through the course of this time. But please help us out and don't spam the chat window. But we are here with experts from across the Adobe Document Cloud business, thinking about Adobe Acrobat, Acrobat Sign, and especially our Acrobat Services APIs and low-code, no-code connectors for the Microsoft Power Platform. So you can ask us all about document workflow automation, document health, document security and compliance. But please, final point, as this is a session as part of the Microsoft Build event, please adhere to the Microsoft Code of Conduct that is posted in the chat. All right, to get us started, I'm going to ask Andy to provide an overview of our portfolio of Acrobat Services APIs. Over to you, Andy.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ian. And hello again, everybody. Yeah, so the best way to think about the Acrobat Services APIs is like this. As you probably all know, a little bit about Acrobat, the desktop product. And one way to think about Acrobat, it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife for dealing with PDF documents. There's lots of different capabilities for managing PDF documents at the desktop within Acrobat. What we've done with the Acrobat Services APIs is we've taken those capabilities out of Acrobat and put them into our public cloud, and made them cloud native and expose them to developers through APIs, so that developers can use these services to automate document processes within their businesses. So where those processes are structured and repeatable and can be automated in order to replace, for example, very manual processes, the Acrobat Services APIs are a great alternative. And ultimately, the benefit there is drive operational efficiencies, right? I'm just going to give you a quick overview of the APIs. If you have any more questions specifically, please feel free to ask them. But it's a suite of APIs that include, number one, our PDF Embed API. And the best way of thinking about the PDF Embed API, it's basically our reader, our free reader for, that can be embedded into web applications. And so no charge. It's a JavaScript API. It's fully consistent in terms of the viewing experience with Reader and the viewer within Acrobat, again, free of charge. The next category of APIs are our PDF Services APIs, and this is really a suite of the basic capabilities that you might operate on a PDF document. So create them, convert from PDF to some other format, edit, like add pages, split, merge PDFs, protect, export, OCR. All of these kind of core PDF capabilities are delivered within the PDF Services suite. And those are kind of like the foundational APIs. The next four are really what we call higher value APIs that kind of take advantage of the fact that we're running in the cloud and go above and beyond what you can do with Acrobat. And the first of those is the document generation API. And the basic concept here is where you need to produce personalized documents at scale. You can create a template in Microsoft Word, and we have a plugin for Word that allows you to turn that template into something that can be used with our DocGen API so that you can insert JSON data into the Word template to personalize it. So if you're doing like invoices or employee offer letters or something like that at scale, this is a great solution for you, and very easy to use and flexible, primarily because the only thing you need to do to build new use cases is understand how to use Word and deal with JSON data. So it's a very straightforward kind of low-code alternative. On top of that, we have two APIs that are built onto our AI infrastructure, which our AI engine, which we call Sensei. And Sensei AI is really designed to understand the structure of PDF documents. So whether that document is created by a machine in Acrobat or any other PDF creation tool, or whether it's a scanned document, our AI engine can visually look at the document, understand the structure of the document. So where's the title? What are the headings? Where are paragraphs? Are the paragraphs split across pages? If so, we want to remerge them. What are tables, lists, images? And we use the power of that AI analysis of the document to, number one, extract it via the PDF extract API. So in this case, what we're doing is we're delivering the content of the PDF document in JSON form, along with not just the text, but also all of the structural content and other metadata about the content. So, and that's really used to enable like NLP-based analysis of documents, such as, for example, making sure that contracts are compliant by analyzing different sections of a contract via NLP. The next API, which is also leveraging this structural analysis delivered by Sensei, is the ability to tag PDF documents for accessibility, our PDF accessibility auto tag API. Again, by understanding the structure, we can automatically tag documents so they can be correctly viewed in an accessible reader. And this is especially useful for big organizations, say a bank that has a library of 10,000 documents that they need to make accessible in order to achieve SEC requirements or what have you. So this accessibility auto tag API basically allows you to tag these documents automatically at scale. And then the last API, which is currently in beta but will be released next month, is our PDF electronic seal API. And what this does is automatically apply a digital seal or an electronic signature to the PDFs in order to verify the document source and authenticity. So if people are worried about the documents that they're sending out being, compromised or some fraud happening, you can actually seal the API, seal the documents before you send them using our API, again, at scale and in bulk, so that people on the other end that are receiving those documents can later on check to see if they've been tampered with and also verify the source of the documents. So these are the APIs all wrapped up, delivered via REST APIs. We also have SDKs for the major languages. They're all available via a Microsoft Power Automate connector, so that they can be built into workflows orchestrated using Power Automate. We also embed them into our own Adobe Workfront Fusion workflow orchestrator, and then also other automation platforms like UiPath and other enterprise apps. And really, just to kind of wrap it all up, I mean, I think at the highest level, the value we're delivering is a complete platform of PDF services, all from a single vendor. Because we're Adobe, we really take care of the fidelity of the document, both in terms of the visual representation of the content, as well as the metadata that wraps around that, which is really critical to enable interoperable workflows. Obviously, like I mentioned, we're enhancing a lot of these APIs by taking advantage of AI services, and of course, delivering these in a best of class enterprise level service. So things like privacy and security and authentication are all guaranteed. So that's just a quick overview of the APIs for those of you that weren't aware of them or didn't really fully understand the full capabilities. And so I'll turn it back over to Ian to take it from there.
Thanks, Andy. That was a good overview. There's a lot to unpack. Again, this is a Q&A session, so please do put all of your questions in the chat window. But just to keep us moving, in fact, I'm just going to get one real time here. So we have the first one in from Katie, and referring to using connectors with Power Automate and what permissions are required, like read, write, access to Office or Microsoft 365 data. So who can take that one from the team?
I mean, I'll jump in, and I think Chad could probably maybe add some additional technical flair. But Power Automate is a really powerful tool that a lot of developers were seeing, taking advantage of that really low code, no code automation platform to not only build single use case workflows, but also leverage that within Logic apps. But regarding the permissions, it has to do with the types of activities you want to basically use within the flow. And for example, one of the flows that I created just for my own use was using email, and also it was using some SharePoint access as well. So, doing some manipulation of PDFs within a SharePoint folder. And so, yes, I did have to give permissions to access whatever SharePoint folder I was authenticating with. And so I did need to authenticate with that, as well as authenticate to the PDF services connector as well with my credential. So I don't know, Chad, do you want to add some additional technical capabilities and commentary there?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, in general, you've got a lot of breadth when you access Power Automate, when you define your connectors. Well, your connectors are really the things that are allowing you to talk to those backend services. It could even be, Dataverse talking back to a backend Microsoft database, or it could be, like Elishia mentioned, SharePoint. I've got to authenticate to that SharePoint connector to be able to access my files. If I'm an administrator and I have the right level of authority, I can act on behalf of my entire organization and access all that information. I think this is a really great opportunity to mention that this week we're going to be announcing new integrations between Acrobat Sign and Power Automate, and it's actually going to be embedded inside Adobe Acrobat Sign. So you'll now have that power to be able to access your Microsoft or Salesforce or virtually any connector that Microsoft has, to be able to incorporate those into much more complex workflows right within Acrobat Sign. And we're including entitlements to both standard and premium connectors within that integration.
I'll quickly expand on that, Chad. Yeah, we've just gone live with that today. So
today.
You can see, I
Thanks,
can post a link to the blog with all the rest of the information that Chad was just covering. Yeah, but just to reiterate, Power Automate is now uniquely embedded within Acrobat Sign to power those automated e-signature workflows. And we have another great question coming in from Bill here. I mean, we've heard a lot of excitement this morning. There's so much buzz around AI. But I mean, just starting off with automation, as we were talking here about document automation, and this has been a hot topic for some time. But I think to paraphrase your question, Bill, what are the real world learnings that we've observed around the balance between implementing these automations versus the perceived time and efficiency savings from it? Is it real? Mahrya, I'm going to throw this one to you to come with your
I'm so glad, actually. So I spent a lot of my life thinking about change management. And when I was reading your question, Bill, I was thinking change management is really hard. And APIs make change management easier, because what they do is they just add functionality to what people already do, right? You're not asking someone to go to a different interface. You're not asking them to learn something new. All you're doing is adding functionality. So you can imagine, some of our integrations, let's say within Salesforce, if you want to go and use the document generation from within Salesforce, you don't need someone to step out of that application. If you want to be able to go, and again, that PDF embed, it can be inside your web application already. When we think about the accessibility API, what's really exciting about that is it allows our customers to blanket their organization in accessibility, often invisibly to the users. You could think about the seal and the security settings as well. That means that your users can go about their regular life, and then you can just add functionality to where they are. So while you can build an interface where you can go and look at these things happening, it could also happen invisibly to users, and that is the best kind of change management there is.
Yeah, and if I can add a thing or two, I mean, it turns out, especially for the AI-enabled APIs, what they're replacing today are, believe it or not, mostly manual processes, and so the savings that AI, even like, let's take the PDF accessibility auto tag API. I mean, even if it's only doing 80% of the job, and that you still have to go in manually and do the last 20%, that savings is dramatic in terms of the comparison of what it costs to do it manually. So the savings that we've been experiencing, that our customers have been experiencing from these APIs is actually very significant.
And just to add on to that, and the outcome's better too. So,
Yeah,
I mean, some
exactly.
of the feedback we got from our customers, I'll never forget reading. It was like going to Disneyland. This is a non-sighted customer reading the content that we used the API for making it accessible. That's pretty fantastic.
That's great. I want to come to Joseph's question in the chat in just a second, but we've talked here about the APIs, so implementation with some development capability, and we've also been talking about Power Platform and Power Automate connectors. Andy, could you expand a little more on how non-developers can create this efficiencies and these automated workflows in the organization, and how that reduces the burden on the development team?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I want to give a shout out to Microsoft on how well they've architected the whole, Power, Automate and Power Apps structure, because it actually is very scalable to the point where, like Elishia, I mean, first of all, she's my product marketing partner, and she's amazing at her job, but she is not a developer. And so just the fact that Elishia is able to build flows using Power Automate is a really good testament to the fact that, anybody who, basically can use Office can start to automate these processes. And again, for simple things like, tagging PDF documents, anybody can easily build a flow to tag PDF documents. Or if you have a whole bunch of documents that come in and you need to convert them all to PDF and merge them together, simple operations, literally anybody can do those things. But what we find, interestingly enough, is even our core, hardcore programmers are using Power Automate to, prototype operations very quickly in using Power Automate via the connector, and then the stuff that's generated from that then can flow directly into Power Apps when they want to build and finish off their full solution. And so, the beauty is that, I think this architecture, the fact that we're plugged in, really gives us the opportunity to not only enable kind of like the non-programmers to be able to do some really cool stuff, but also enable programmers to be much more efficient and effective in their work.
Just to add on to that, one of the things that I've found is that even if they are prototyping or doing demonstrations of the art of the possible, behind the scenes you can peek at the code right there within Power Automate, and you see all the API calls. So if you just need this as a starting point to actually pass off to your developers who could code in any language, maybe it's Java, PHP, it doesn't matter. It can help jumpstart that development process just because all the API calls are there.
That's great. And I want to come back to Joseph's question here about the licensing requirement, the need for an Adobe subscription. And perhaps, Elishia, would you mind answering that question?
Sure, Ian. So the Power Automate requires certain licensing for Office 365, depending on whether you have a standardized or a premium connector. And so depending on your licensing for Office 365, you would either already have access to all standard connectors, and then perhaps you might have access as well to the premium connectors. And so that's separate. There's also, from the API side on the document, the Acrobat Services side, we do offer a free trial right now that gives you 1,000 transactions for free. So you can simply sign up for that. That is available for up to 6 months. And then pretty soon we'll also have a free tier available as well. So we're going to provide a generous free tier to allow you to just try these out yourself and then prototype them either yourselves, or maybe your development team wants to do proof of concept. And then once you're ready to make a purchase, you would purchase separate licensing from Adobe as well for the APIs.
So the one exception to that I'll add is what we were referring to earlier about including Power Automate entitlements within Acrobat Sign. This is a specific use case where we are bringing those entitlements and including them for enterprise Acrobat Sign customers. So if they're automating a workflow which includes that e-signature action, whether it's pre-signing, post-signing, so long as it's invoking the Acrobat Sign connector, that's included within that license. And that can also extend to including connecting with otherwise premium Power Automate connectors. So there's a ton of new value that we're bringing into Acrobat Sign that we're really excited about. All right, I brought up on the screen here the URL for where you can go find that offer that Elishia referred to. I'll just let this sit for a few minutes and then maybe go back to Andy's overall view of our API portfolio. But if you want to go sign up for those free transactions, that's where you need to go. Now I'm going to shift gears a little bit, and please do keep your questions coming in the chat window. But one of the things we offered to talk about today is the concept of document health. And so, Mahrya, would you mind elaborating on what we mean by that term?
Certainly. So when we want to be able to do all of these cool things, Andy has talked about our ability to take substandard documents and help to extract some meaning and use out of them. But really, when you want to automate your use of content, when you want to be able to present on different screens, when you want to be able to make it accessible, starting with a high quality PDF is really key to success here. And when we're thinking about a high quality PDF, let's think about the different elements there. Andy mentioned having metadata that is appropriate to the creation, to the functioning of that document that can sit underneath it. And when you think about your PDF, you're really thinking about a portfolio of stuff here. So you have the visible part, the metadata behind it. Then you can think about the flow of the underlying document. It's not just the visual representation of it. If the underlying flow of the document is really, is the way it is displayed, that means that you can then go and repurpose that content. We can think about when we're able to then go and extract it, we can pull out those different elements, we can send them to other systems. As I said, we can repurpose them on different devices, and we can make use of them further on. So that's having a high quality PDF that enables you to be able to do all these things that we've discussed so far.
I'll add on to that too, Mahrya. I think that one of the things that escapes us sometimes is that, our counterpart, my counterpart, Andy, on the product side, is making sure that, our engineering team adheres 100% to that PDF specification. And as you mentioned, it's so important to have that high fidelity document, not only for, visibility and, management of the document as it's opened up in different environments, but also as we get into some of the capabilities that Andy's team is building for the AI kind of integrations that we have, the, importance of the high fidelity in is going to give you that high fidelity out, right? And so that's just hugely important and something that keeps coming up, especially with accessibility, with the PDF extract type functionality. Getting that content out is really important to have a really good document, going into the services as well. And so it's important to have that high fidelity, 100% adherence to the PDF specification.
You just mentioned them, Elishia, something I wanted to go to next, because this concept of document health could be rephrased that not all PDFs are created equal, but equally not all of us humans are created equal or have the same requirements around accessibility. So could we expand a little bit more on what we're enabling there through our document accessibility APIs? Perhaps Andy, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously there are people with special needs that have, but still need to consume information, right? And a lot of that information is locked up into PDF documents. The key here is that the quote unquote reader technologies that enable different people to be able to consume documents are varied, right? There are different types of ways of doing like text to speech, or maybe just blowing up the document because their vision isn't great, or what have you. And so the key there is that the PDF has built into it the ability to tag the different elements of the document specifically so that those elements can be interpreted correctly across the ecosystem of reading technology. And so that's really what we're doing with, and that includes, like, again, like I said earlier, is this piece of text a heading? Is this piece of text a paragraph? Is that paragraph spill over into the next column or to the next page? What's the reading order from top to bottom? You know, if it's a table, how do you allow the reader to interpret a table? All of this information is really important that it's tagged correctly so that these accessibility readers can interpret them and deliver them to the user in whatever way is appropriate given their, capabilities. So that's the general concept. And what we do is we use that Sensei structure analysis to be able to understand which part of the document is, a paragraph versus a header versus a footer versus a hyperlink, and capture that with the tags so that the readers interpret it correctly.
Great. And beyond the API, it's also enabled through Power Automate, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can do this through Power Automate as well. Yeah. And by the way, I should say that the accessibility capabilities also are exposed in Acrobat and are, made available when you're using Reader in all its different forms as well. So it's basically kind of across all surfaces approach for us, and make the entire PDF ecosystem accessible.
And of course, the same technology that's doing that allows the extract API, right? It's the same basic understanding of it. And exactly. that is that repurposing concept as well. So if I want to be able to pull out that table and use it elsewhere, if I want to be able to ignore footers so that I can reflow content, or, page numbers or something like that, if I want to be able to go and look for some structured information and talking about some of those things that non-developers can do. I spent forever trying to, make chat bots so I could interrogate documents and feed it back to me. And guess what? A non-developer can do that. So it's pretty cool stuff.
So to paraphrase a different source, while not all PDFs are created from an equal standard, some are more equal than others. All right, so that gives me a chance to segue into another topic. We don't have a lot of time left, but we have a great question here in the chat around legality, in particular in a public institution, and the tracking and authenticity of signatures. And this opens up the broader area around document security. Andy referred to sealing a document. We've got integrations with identity protection platforms and the Microsoft Purview information protection. And Chad, I want to put the specific question from the chat to you, and perhaps also just give you the platform to expand a little more on what we're doing around document security and compliance.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. Yes, absolutely. And this is a great segue into a couple new features that we're adding. So as many of you on the call know, or maybe not, in terms of Adobe Acrobat Sign, which is also exposed as a connector for Power Automate, so I can build that e-signature process directly into my flows. We have added recently the ability to have what we call identity gateway. And this allows you to be able to use a third-party verification authentication system as a second factor authentication prior to signing. And that does get automatically added to the built-in audit trail that occurs within Acrobat Sign. So you can see that the person was verified through this third party. We've got a number of different services provided that we'll be supporting, including ID.me, which is many of you may be familiar with, that the IRS uses for logging into your personal app for your taxes in the US. And then the other one is the Seal API that Ian mentioned before. And that is also another factor that gets added into the audit trail that allows you to be able to seal documents as maybe by itself, for a document that needs to be validated as authentic from the right source. So for those of you who don't know, an e-seal is a digital signature that's applied to document on the behalf of a company or an entity, not an individual. So this allows the recipient to be confident of where it's actually coming from. So that can be added as a part of a signing workflow. You might have a seal as initially probably the first step, for example, and then that might go to a signer so that they will feel comfortable if they're signing a document that comes from the original source. And all this stuff becomes, built in and automated through Power Automate flows. So being able to leverage all these APIs and be able to send for signature, ensure the seal is included, ensure that the third-party identity management is in there as well. So it's a great platform for being able to tie these all together into a single process.
Great. Thanks, Chad. And that really brings us to time. It's a short session. I hope this was valuable. Please do check out everything else we have on offer at Build. We have a great live session tomorrow, and we have some recorded demos. There's all sorts of content available on the Adobe partner section of the Microsoft Build website. Please go check out developer.adobe.com for more information from us, including the ability to sign up for a free set of 1,000 document transactions. Please also provide feedback via the link in the chat for session evaluation. But that's it from us. I want to thank my panel, Chad, Elishia, Mahrya, and Andy. And thank you all for the time and joining us again. And have a great build.